Yeah, so we are this month in June moving to an every other Wednesday meeting schedule, so there'll be no more Tuesday meetings. So everybody can just remember D10 Wednesday, either here at halftime rec, depending on which day of the week it is or which week of the month it is. And as a result of doing this meeting schedule change, we have to update our bylaws. Our current bylaws say that we meet every third Tuesday to conduct board business. This bylaw change changes that meeting schedule to every third Wednesday, just kind of aligning with the current schedule. Please correct me if I'm wrong there, but that's right. In the process of reviewing that meeting schedule bylaw change, it became clear that we also should probably update our financial process in the bylaws to align with the financial process that we put in place in 2023 that we've been operating with for a while now. This just aligns the bylaws with the way we've been actually doing the financial process for a while. So I created a very ad hoc graphic with some descriptions. If you have it online there, is it on the action item online? I didn't click on it.
It's on the website agenda though.
Okay, I can find it.
Great. Well, basically, just kind of sort of walks through everything. The main thing, I'm going to start at the very bottom of it and working my way up. So we're going to look at the key roles first. There's the executive director, which is Shevik and our staff. The treasurer, Dan, our accountant, which is Harrington and Langer. The officers, which are some of the fine folks here, and then the board of directors who are authorized signers. If you kind of take a peek at that, staff prepares and codes all of the invoices, sends check requests to the accountant. You can just kind of, I don't really want to like go into all of this because it's a lot more information. But I hope you take a second to look over it and feel free to ask questions as they come up. But if you go up to the little flow chart thingy, which is I think a little bit more clear of like the process, we receive an invoice, it gets coded, a check request gets created. The invoice is sent to both the treasurer and our accountants. Each month, at the end of the month, the treasurer and the board chair review all of these expenses, and reimbursements and timesheets all require a supervisor or officer signature before the check is even requested. And then, in order for us to get a check, the accountant, or sorry, the staff submits that check request twice a month around payroll time, and the accountant prints and distributes those checks twice a month. They all have signatures. They've all been reviewed by the treasurer and the executive director. Then, doing well. All right, great. Then when under the current financial process, if a check is under $1,000, it requires one signature, which is the executive director or any authorized signer. So it could be the board chair, the treasurer. I think those are the authorized signers. And then for anything that's more than $1,000, so sometimes we have to distribute long legumes funds or larger programming funds in single checks that are over $1,000. Those checks require two signatures, which can be any combination of the executive director, treasurer, board chair, or other authorized signer. So what that allows for is just flexibility for the organization to move quickly when it comes to fulfilling a reimbursement for an event funding or those sorts of things, but also having oversight for larger transactions. And then the final column there just sort of walks through the internal and external sort of oversight that we have into the ins and outs of the expenses. So, you know, the treasurer is copied on all the email requests that go to the accountant, the board chair, as well as, you know, really any board member can sort of get eyes on those as they sort of go through. We have the biennial internal audit, which we just finished up in April or March. In addition to that, we have external oversight through Harrington and Langer, which is our local CPA that does numerous things, including, I have it here, they issue payments, they conduct monthly payroll calculations, they do reconciliation of our taxes and our year-to-date budget and actuals, as well as payroll taxes. And then, you know, there's also oversight that our grantors require. If we have a certain grant that requires, you know, X, Y, or Z type of reporting and accounting, we follow that as well. So that is sort of the process that we've been operating under now for 2 years. The bylaw change that we're voting on tonight, just aligns the bylaws with the current financial process. So hopefully that was a speed run, but made sense. Please ask questions if you have them.
I have some questions.
Excellent.
So first of all, this bylaw change, this will not impact our financial policies for checks over $1,000, right?
Correct.
That policy is staying exactly the same from the bylaws before this change, before today and after today, if we would repeat that.
Correct.
Great. And checks under $1,000 under our new proposed changes, yeah, that only requires one signatory, correct?
Mhm.
But how many people would be seeing that check within, say, a month of that check being issued?
I would probably say no less than 4 different people.
4 people, so let's say.
Including the account.
Yeah, so let's say there's a check Shevik has to sign for $700. He's the only signature. But you would see that check within a week or 2.
Yeah, and the treasurer would see it too.
Dan, our treasurer, would see that in a week or 2, and eventually our accountant would see that too. So that's several layers of oversight over Shevik, you know, all in any of the officers, but also Shevik in that example. So that the risk of misappropriation is low, we can be caught.
Yes, and I would just clarify that there would be not only a number of oversight on the front end, but there's also additional oversight on the back end. So there's the check preparation and signing and distributing, but then there's also the monthly reconciliation that we do, you know, as a regular sort of business kind of activity.
Great, thank you.
And to be clear, this process has been underway for 2 years, and there have been no reports of any malfeasance of any sort. Is that right?
Not for as long as I've been on the board, which is 4 or 5 years now, yeah.
So we're sort of codifying an existing process.
Correct.
And I would just speak to having been one of the folks who participated in the most recent audit that we did, where we went through 2 years of the D10 financial records, and we were able to reconcile every check. I think the fact that the accountant is the one and the bank issues them, right? So they're not coming. It's a good reminder to people that there's not a physical checkbook that like Shevik has in his pocket that he can whip out and write a check for, right? That when we request checks, they go to the bank issues them, the CPA sees that. And so when we went back through that 2-year audit, it was very easy for us to track all of those checks and to be able to see everything they were for. I'll remind folks, the like one issue that we came up with in that audit is that the payments to the state that they take out, that the state grabs from us instead of we send, they don't provide as detailed of accounting as we want. So from our end, we are operating at a higher level than the state of Minnesota is.
And I just wanted to add one other thing that I forgot in my speed run of the presentation is that part of the reason for this change is that the like digital payments and the more like online systems that we have, this current financial process that we've been operating under that we're sort of codifying, like better aligns with that process because we're not necessarily cutting checks to pay our internet bill, right? So it just fits more with our general oversight of like how we process more of our digital payments.
Thank you. And that answered one of my questions.
Yeah.
That I was either hopeful or assumed was that a lot of the stuff we're doing is digital for online payments and not, you know, checks that might get lost in the mail and that kind of stuff. So great.
Yeah, I would actually say that we're way behind the times, generally speaking, about moving to digital payment. Part because of like the historic oversight that requires so many signatures, we refrain from moving to digital payments, but we have paid credit card bills late because our checks have to go in the mail twice, from the accountant to me, and then from me to the credit card company. And we've gotten late fees because we have to wait twice, and that payment should be moved to digital. And our current process has multiple eyes on the digital processes, not just the check. And the multiple signatures on check doesn't cover digital processes at all. So.
I think Dolores wants
Yeah, okay, I understand what you're saying. Because yeah, when I was on the district council, everything was paper done, with the digital, it is safer in some ways. But I don't understand why a second person, because everything works faster through the internet, can't be the other person agreeing, agreeing or approving of it. Why is it only one person? Why can't there be two people approving of it before it actually is sent to be paid or sent? You know what I'm trying to say? I don't understand, I mean, I pay bills. I can pay a bill on the internet, but with a business, do all businesses run this way? We are kind of like a business.
I think that this change brings us in line with the way that other district councils operate.
Okay, so they're doing that.
Mhm.
So, okay, my other question is, okay, you said 2 years ago you started doing this, but the bylaws had not been changed. So you were doing it without changing the bylaws. So that really wasn't kosher. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
So this was an
You shouldn't be
update.
doing something,
Mhm.
you shouldn't change something until it actually is decided by the board and the community, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. And part of that was, I mean, Dolores, like with COVID, a lot of the
Mhm.
way that D10 operated had to change. And so a lot of our processes were in flux there for sure for a few years.
Okay.
I think this is us trying to go back and be very transparent about what those changes were and to make sure that people feel like they really can see what that process is that we use. I'll tell you a thing that I take great comfort in is knowing that before any check ever gets issued, it goes through the bank. Like it doesn't even come through the board when you're asking like, what's the other set of eyes? That other set of eyes at the very beginning is the accountant's office and the bank.
Okay.
Right. And so to some extent, we are trying to make sure that we are building in an extra layer of protection, that it's not just people on the board. It is, in fact, external professionals who have no financial interest in our operations that have high visibility on everything that we do.
Yeah, and there's a record of it more than we used to have.
There's so many records of it.
2011, we had a big problem. I don't know if you ever heard about it, but we ended up having to kick somebody off the board and eventually get rid of our director.
Yeah, we have so
embezzling,
many
sort
records.
of. Yeah.
Yep. So many records of them. Yeah.
Okay.
I know Laura has a question, but I'll also add that.
Go ahead.
I'll add that we 2 years or 2023 when we changed the financial procedure document, there was a full board discussion. It was like it was listed in our agenda as an item.
Okay.
And the reason the bylaws didn't get changed at that time was partially an oversight. What we generally reference for our financial procedures is our very lengthy and detailed financial policy documents. So it's just my understanding, and like mea culpa, I should have reacquainted myself with the bylaws at that time, but the bylaws mostly point to our financial procedure document, but for that one item, it spelled it out. And so we had this discussion with that board at that time, and it was considered and it was discussed, and it was an open public meeting. It just wasn't announced as thoroughly or as officially as this. So I apologize for being part of that oversight at that time, but it wasn't meant to not, or to be underhanded. It was part of our public meeting process.
Yeah. Well, I know some of you were kind of upset that this one person shared it with everybody the way they did, because that's the only way I found out that you were, doing it this way.
And these are,
But,
I mean, I think that
I guess,
the reason.
Go ahead.
Well, Dolores, I was going to say the reason that person knew is because it was published in our weekly newsletter for a couple of weeks. And so that was how that person knew. And, our policy is to make sure that any bylaw changes are announced to the community. That's the method that we have for it, is to put it on our website and to put it in those letters. So that is how that person found out about it. So, I mean, like, we
I
definitely.
didn't read the newsletter, I have to admit.
It's okay. It's okay. Laura, did you have a question?
I just wanted to say too, hi Dolores, by the way. I've done this audit this year with Maggie and another board member, and I did it 2 years ago also. And again, coming off of COVID and things like that, there are many, many eyes on these items before they even move forward. And I think the illustration of the process flow that Matt showed really outlines all the different people that are looking at it and talking about it. And board members do have access to budgets and things, and they're discussed usually ahead of time. There's meetings with regard to the what expenses are going to be going for the ice cream social or whatever ahead of time. So sometimes, maybe again, because someone saw something and we're at a very heightened state of awareness because of things that have happened at the state level. And, that's just really good that we're all paying attention to that. And I don't think, you saw it, or the person who started it saw it online, and then it spreads through various networks, and there were various discussions online for it, but the most appropriate discussion location is in this open meeting here.
Right.
So that's what those things are there. The questions can be directed and discussed, but I just wanted to let you know, that I've been involved in audit stuff for 4 years, and the files are actually improving significantly over that time because of the electronics and the checks and balances and the reporting and the flow. So just giving you a heads up on that, and thanks again for showing up tonight. So
Other questions on this item?
Yeah. Sorry, can I go?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is Dan, by the way. So this email, just, I don't know if everyone got the email. Maybe everyone here knows. Okay. Well, then it doesn't, it doesn't require explaining it, but there was a lot of feedback. And I think that actually is good. And you got to hear that, a number of the folks weighed in from the public, I had concerns, and I understand that because we've had broad issues in the state. And so it was good in that it made us aware of it, and it's made us think about it. And a lot of this discussion that we just had has been an attempt to say, essentially to address those concerns. And I really appreciate the flow chart, Matt. I mean, I could have done this. This is great. I really, and I'm a treasurer, so thank you.
Former treasurer.
This really, you're the former treasurer. So, but it really helps lay it out, and I think it does show that we have good oversight. But nonetheless, it was very good to hear from folks. And I think it's important for us to listen and, reasonably, rationally address things. And I think we've done that. So I feel comfortable with where we're at our process.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, we're accountable to the public that we represent, and I think that the public coming forth and voicing that in our response to that is what we see here. And I think, it feels right to me how we've handled this. So I hope it does to folks at home too. But
yeah, and Dolores, just also to be clear, I wasn't bothered by people emailing in about concerns. I appreciate concerns. Those email lists that were used have 460 people on them, and I think after a while I started getting as many responses from people saying, please stop bothering me, as I did the comments. So I don't know if anybody understands just how large we've meticulously grown those lists to be, but we really don't want to abuse those context lists if discussions are bothering people. And so it was I didn't want to respond to individual emails only to have it blow up to even more responses and bother people even more. So that was the only aginess on my part about that thread.
Can I suggest maybe in their next newsletter, you can explain to everybody exactly what you said tonight about why and how the electronics, of it all is safer You know what I'm trying to say? Because not everybody will think
Yeah,
about
I
that.
think that,
Yeah.
yeah. Now that we have this helpful thing that Matt made, I can probably put something together for that for this week.
Yeah. Okay.
Dolores, this is all recorded also, so anyone can listen to this discussion and educate themselves that way. So if you share that with any people you run across on your list, that's the best way for people to educate themselves on this issue also. Thanks.